How to make mozzarella cheese at home.
Let's see what's cooking. Let's get the facts. Let's see what's cooking. It's time for yoyomax12.
Hello everyone. You will need a large non-reactive pot. That means a pot that's made of stainless steel. Stay away from things like aluminum. You'll need 1 gallon of milk or 3.8 liters. I'm using 3.25% milk, which we call homogenized milk, which is whole milk. You could use 2% as well. I would stay away from skim milk, and you cannot use UHT milk or ultra high temperature pasteurized milk because that won't work. Now I'm using just a Dutch oven, which is going to be very full when I pour all my milk in, but it is just fine. You'll need a couple of specialized ingredients to make mozzarella cheese, and one of them is citric acid. Citric acid is made from lemons, limes, and oranges. It's very natural. I bought this powdered citric acid at the Bulk Barn. If you can't find it at your local food stores, you can also buy it online. You'll need 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid. Add that to 1 cup of cool water. Make sure the water doesn't have any chlorine in it. You can use bottled water. I used water that has gone through one of those pitcher filter things I had in my refrigerator. Stir that together until the citric acid is completely dissolved, and then you're going to pour it into your milk. Gently stir that in, and at this point turn on your heat to medium-high, and you're going to gently stir and heat the milk until it reaches 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, obviously, you're going to need some kind of thermometer to tell you've reached the right temperature. I'm using an instant read digital thermometer. It works very well. And as soon as your milk has reached 90 degrees Fahrenheit, you're going to shut the heat off and take it off the heat. Now, the other specialized ingredient you will need is something called rennet. Rennet is an enzyme that helps bind together all the proteins so that they make cheese. You can get it in animal or vegetable format. It also comes in liquid and tablets. I bought the liquid. I bought the animal rennet because I heard that it works better, and I bought it on Amazon. I mixed 1/2 teaspoon of rennet with 1/2 cup of water, and then you're going to pour the water rennet into the warm milk and citric acid, and you're going to stir gently for 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, you're going to put the lid on top of it and then just let it sit there off heat for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, when you touch the top of the curd that you can see floating on the top, it'll feel like very soft tofu. If you've ever touched tofu, basically the curd has separated from the whey. The whey is the yellow liquid that's going to be in there. I'm taking an offset spatula. You can use a sharp knife, and you're going to cut the curd into little squares in a grid pattern. Just make sure you go all the way through to the bottom of the pot. So now we have curds and whey. Now we need to turn the heat back on to medium because we want to bring these curds and whey up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So what you're going to do is you're going to heat it on medium heat, and you're going to gently stir and swirl this mixture, and you're going to check it with an instant read thermometer, and you want to get it to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Now just keep in mind that as you're heating this, it's going to heat unevenly. So some places might be 105, but some places might not be. That's why it's important to just gently stir every once in a while. You don't want to break up those curds too much. Give it a gentle swirl every once in a while and keep checking. And when you reach 105 degrees Fahrenheit, pretty much all over in the pot, then you're going to take it off the heat, put that lid back on, and just allow it to sit for an additional 10 minutes or so. Just gently swirl it a couple of times during the 10-minute period, and then we're ready to separate those curds from the whey. Now what you need to do is scoop out the curds. So use a slotted spoon and start to scoop out the curds from the pot and put them into a large microwavable safe bowl. I'm using a large glass bowl, and scoop out as much of the curd as you can. And when you're done, you'll see that you'll have a large white mass, which is the curd, and that yellow stuff, the liquid, is the whey. We don't want the whey. We want to try to drain off as much as that is possible. So what I do is here is I'm going to take this bowl and I'm going to drain off as much of the liquid as I can, holding on to your curds so they don't fall out of the bowl. So once you've drained off as much of the whey as possible, take the curd in the bowl, put it in the microwave on high for 1 minute. Now I've put a pair of food preparation gloves here because it just gets really hot on the hands. You're going to try to squeeze out more whey, and you're going to just gently start to knead it a little bit just to try to get out as much of that liquid as possible and drain it off as you go. Now it looks a little like cottage cheese here. It's not quite at the mozzarella stage yet. Put it back in the microwave for 30 seconds. After it's been in there for 30 seconds, you can give it another little knead and you're going to check the temperature. Now what we're looking for is 135 degrees Fahrenheit. When you're almost to 135 degrees Fahrenheit, add in a half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon to a teaspoon, depending on how salty you want your cheese, and then knead it in. And then put it back in the microwave for another 15 seconds or so. Check your temperature. You need it to get to 135. Once it gets to 135, you'll notice a real transformation with your cheese. When you start to knead it, it gets very smooth. It starts to get shiny. It starts to get elastic. And as you can see, it looks nothing like cottage cheese at this point. The heat actually melts the curd a little bit and it just allows it to become mozzarella. So you can see how stretchy it is, how shiny it is, and that's how you know you pretty much at the right stage of your mozzarella. So once it gets shiny, it gets nice and elastic, and you can form it into shapes, you're pretty much done. Now at this point, you can break it up into little tiny balls like bocconcini. You can make it into a big ball. And what I do is I make it into a log shape because I find it easier to slice up to make it into caprese salad. Then what I do is I take the log shape that I've made and I plunge it into some ice water. I let it sit in the ice water for about 15 minutes. And what this does, it firms up the outside, it cools it down quickly, and you can eat it faster. And then I take it out of the ice water. I allow it to drain and on some paper toweling, pat it dry a little bit, and then put it in the covered container in the refrigerator. Now apparently you can keep this in your fridge for about a week or so, but you know what? This stuff doesn't last a week in my house, so I'm not sure how long you can keep it. It's usually gone within 2 or 3 days because it is so delicious. It's nice and creamy, and it is so, so good. If you've never had fresh mozzarella cheese, you really need to give this a try. One of my favorite ways of eating this is as a caprese salad, which is basically tomato, basil, cheese, and is drizzled with a balsamic reduction, as well as a little olive oil. You can also take these cheese slices and put them on a pizza. Now, the only thing that's a bit different with this fresh mozzarella cheese is I find it doesn't melt quite the same way. It doesn't melt and kind of make a pool of cheese. It kind of holds its shape. It does melt and is nice and stringy when you pull on it. It just holds its shape a lot better. So another way that I've used this cheese is I've actually made Hasselback chicken caprese. If you want to see this video recipe, go ahead and click right on your screen. It's a great use of fresh tomatoes and fresh mozzarella.